Tanse Jahanache, my name is Helen Knott. I am a Danaza and Nihiao woman living in Fort St. John from Prophet River First Nations. I am a social worker that works within the territories with families, and I am a mother to a little boy. When it comes to resource extraction and then large-scale development projects such as Site C, there's the environmental impacts, but there's also the impacts on Indigenous women and girls. And this is something that we experience, we see, we witness, and we live at that community level within the territory. Some of these impacts come from the influx of transient workers and the increase of population, which makes it really, really, really hard in order to access safe and affordable housing, which pushes a lot of our women further into poverty, which is a risk factor for violence. Another impact that we're seeing within communities is the impact of, there's a lot of good men that are out there working within this industry, but there's also men that hold specific stereotypes against our women that definitely puts them in a place of risk when it comes to violence. And then when you pair that with the high substance use rates of transient workers who come into town that are looking to blow off steam. In the 2014 Peace Report or Peace Project, they also talked about the hypermasculinity that's found in these camps, and they found that the male population that are in these camps are also underserviced, so they're suffering from different mental health concerns or personal concerns. We're all human and we struggle, but accessing services is a hard thing. And then with women in our communities, the access to services has become incredibly hard, especially over the last few years, where we're strained in our town. The workers at organizations have said that they're tapped out, that they're really trying to stretch as far as they can. And there's the overt violence, the physical violence, the sexual violence, the racism that we find within regions like this, especially such as ours, where we're essentially invisible within the territory. We're not thought of when these projects are being put into place. There's no gender-based analysis within these projects. And you wonder, why are we absent? Why are we not acknowledged? Is it also because of what's going on? Then if we are present and visible, then it makes it harder to do the things that are being done in the communities. Some of the other violence, there was a coin termed by the Native Youth Sexual Health Network called environmental violence. And so that violence also includes the interruption of your rights to reproductive justice. So as women, being able to raise your children the way that you would. And as Indigenous women, our ways are connected to land. And so these projects interrupt that. So if you look at Site C and you're flooding vast amounts of territory, we're losing access to medicines, to berries. It's a migratory corridor, so that will have impact on hunting, and it will increase the methyl mercury levels yet again. We can only already eat one fish like every 2 months safely now. Once this goes in, we won't be able to eat from that river for decades. And it's being able to provide for your children. If you're giving them land-based food and you're worried about poisoning them, how is that right? And another form of that violence is the disruption of being able to perpetuate identity, because a lot of Indigenous knowledge is land-based, so it actually happens on the land. I know for my grandmother, her stories are activated by being on the land. So when we lose that, we're also interfering and impeding that ability for us to raise strong Indigenous children that are rooted in their culture and who they are. So there's the creation of risk factors for Indigenous women in regards to increasing the dynamics where they can experience violence. There's poverty, there's the financial abuse, there's transient workers within the community that have no investment in community as well. And then you look at the other piece where you're taking the land base away, and the land base is also used for healing, so it's used for strengthening our women and girls as well. And you're just creating this crazy vacuum where you're aggressively colonizing, and you're creating essentially like a dangerous place, and you're perpetuating what's been going on historically for hundreds of years within Canada. And I think now it's not so in your face. The racism isn't so overt, it's more subtle, and it looks like not being thought of. It looks like making people invisible within their territory and not hearing when they're saying no, whether that no be over body or whether that no be over land and projects like Site C.